Maybe just a few words about me. I am a senior fellow with the Ecologic Institute. We are based here in Berlin and a non-for-profit environmental institute for environmental policy. And the bioeconomy is one of the topics we are working on. So now I will give you a very short overview of potential positive but also negative impacts of the bioeconomy. So the bioeconomy has been on the political agenda for many years already, and we've heard this in the previous presentations. And there is, of course, a reason for that. It's a promising concept. It uses biomass as a raw material for the production of other products. It aims to contribute to more sustainable use of the natural resources, to climate mitigation, adaptation, and also to protect the ecosystems. And it's also kind of a more holistic concept trying to involve the society and to foster a transition towards more sustainable society and future. And no wonder that there are already so many countries around the world with either a dedicated bioeconomy strategy or with a strategy covering to some extent the bioeconomy and prioritizing it. So we at Ecologic, in the context of two research projects, analyzed existing bioeconomy strategies, not only in Europe, but also around the world, and came to the conclusion that the bioeconomy strategies, despite the different focus they may have, they have similar objectives, and we've clustered them as follows. There are economic objectives aiming at maintaining competitiveness and economic growth, and the creation of jobs, especially in rural areas. This is the so-called rural renaissance in the European bioeconomy strategy, in the increased production in agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and aquaculture. We're talking here about sustainable intensification. The socio-economic objectives are focusing on investment in research, innovation, and skills, in the development and use of biotechnological and genetic engineering processes, here as example white biotechnology or genome editing, the CRISPR-Cas application, and also to ensure global food security. And the environmental objectives are focusing on reducing and eliminating the dependence of fossil raw materials, on the efficient use of organic raw materials. Here we have the concept of producing more from less, also the concept of a circular bioeconomy, the cascade use of resources, and last but not least, to protect ecosystems and climate. So by looking at these objectives, it's easy to see that the objectives of the bioeconomy are either identical or very similar to the targets of the SDGs. And you can see here on the graph the links between the bioeconomy activities and the targets of the SDG. The blue arrows show the socioeconomic targets, the green, the ecological targets, and the red arrow, the links between bioeconomy activities and the economic targets. And indeed, a sustainable bioeconomy could contribute and advance the achievement of many SDGs. However, sustainability is not an intrinsic characteristic. It has a potential, but there are also many trade-offs and potentially negative impacts which we need to consider. And now in the next slides, I will give you examples for the social, economic, and environmental impacts of the bioeconomy, trying to answer the question if this is a way towards combining and reconciling economic growth with social justice and environmental protection. And I will start with an example about the economic impacts of the bioeconomy. So bioeconomy-related innovation, and we already heard about many of them in the previous presentations, such as new bio-based technology, but also the biological knowledge, which is constantly developing and very rapidly developing, can provide opportunity for the creation of new value chains, could generate sources of income, could create new jobs, and could also accelerate the launch of bioeconomy products, processes, and services on the market. Here on the picture, you can see one example with isolation material, mycelium used as isolation material for construction, but there are also many other examples which we've heard in the previous presentation. That's why I won't go here into more details. So this increased demand for bioeconomy-related feedstock and products can lead to changes in the respective commodity prices. And this could, at the same time, could put more pressure on other consumers of this feedstock, and could also have some distributional effects. For example, if we have large industrial plants or biorefineries, this may result in a concentration and intensification of international trade in one region, which could also lead to unequal social and geographical distribution of costs and benefits. And that's why it's very important to kind of foster the development of small bio-based business models at regional level, and also by using originally available biomass and resources. The next example is on the social impacts of the bioeconomy. So ensuring food security is a very important issue for the growing population on the globe, and the bioeconomy has for sure a role to play here. It could contribute to more sustainable investments in the agriculture, could increase crop yields, could also support the use of undervalued resources for nutrition, and could improve food quality, but also contribute to reducing food waste. Just an example, there is a spray produced using organic waste residues that can make food stay fresh for a longer time and also contribute to reducing food waste. This is on the bright side. The increased biomass demand can also lead to an increase in agricultural production in regions with food insecurity due to competition of land. And here it's worth mentioning one example from Colombia. The expansion of sugarcane production in Colombia, which is a very important raw material for the production of bioethanol, has had already a significant impact on the local traditional agricultural practices. And as a result, food security, but also the quality of life for the rural population has decreased. And also agricultural production has been threatened by the expansion of monocultures. And this expansion of the agricultural land in Colombia is often happening on the expense of wetlands, and wetlands are very important ecosystems for climate mitigation. So here we have a negative social but also environmental impact. And now one example on the environmental impacts with regard to the protection of ecosystems. There are already very many promising approaches. For example, the agroecology has a high potential. Here, these agroecology methods include this diversification of crop variety, use of indigenous seeds and crops, composting, reduction of use of non-renewable energy, and all these could contribute to more resilient agriculture and could protect ecosystems. There are already some genetic modifications that could offer some opportunities for the agriculture. I'm very careful here, but this intensification of biomass and also these new genetic engineering applications could have negative impacts on the biodiversity. We still know too little about the interrelationships between the metabolism of the organism and their surrounding ecosystems. So this should be first very carefully evaluated before we start implementing it at a larger scale. And one last example on environmental impacts with regard to climate protection. The efficient use of biomass, and here I'm talking also about residues, not only about the primary biomass, in the construction of energy, chemical sectors, can contribute to emissions-free economy. Here I have a few examples, for example, for the production of fuels and chemicals through power to liquids, power to gas, and power to chemicals. This could contribute to a reduction of greenhouse emissions, but the increased demand for wood, sugarcane, and oil crops, the example I gave also, is already putting pressure on the ecosystem, especially in the tropical regions. And this is not only Colombia, there are also many other countries affected by this. And another point is that the removal of agricultural and forestry biomass residues could lead to loss of soil nutrients. So to sum up, there are many trade-offs and potentially negative impacts that we need to consider. We need to monitor them and counteract if you want to really have a sustainable bioeconomy. And then new novel bio-based products are not a miracle solutions to all sustainability challenges. So in addition to monitoring the bio-based processes, we as a society have also a role to play, and we could contribute to a sustainability transformation and reduce our consumption, try to avoid food waste, try to use products longer, and many other examples what we could do as a society. And with regard to the monitoring of the bioeconomy, okay, with the new, which is not new anymore, but with the updated bioeconomy strategies in 2018, the European Commission also supports initiatives to develop the efficient and sustainable bioeconomy, and there is an action focusing on implementing a European-wide monitoring system to track the progress. And there are a few ongoing monitoring and indicator initiatives. This is the EU-funded Horizon 2020 project Biomonitor. Also the initiatives undertaken by the Joint Research Center, we've heard about them. And in Germany, there are two projects also trying to develop a systematic modeling of the bioeconomy and looking also at the environmental indicators. And apart from that, in our project Bureau, which Ecologic Institute is coordinating, we are trying now to test and to develop a more simplified sustainability screening that is supposed to support regional stakeholders in assessing the regional ecosystems in their regions. And one final slide here, I've compiled a few resources. If you're interested to learn more about bioeconomy, circular economy, and SDGs, but also the links between them, you could visit our Bureau website. We have a number of educational materials, and most of them are available in other language than English. And here I have 3 publications. One of the publications is in German, but it has a very detailed summary in English. Yep. Thank you for the attention, and yeah, if you have any questions, you can always write an email or write your question in the chat box, I guess.